Welcome back to the desert, everyone. I'm so glad you could join me again. So starting out, look at all the progress we've made. So many things have happened. All right, I know, but I can't spoil the end completely. So since it is a build video, I do want to show you how I got there. So most of this was completed previously, as you guys know. I spent a lot of time working on the pads for the port side corridor. And if you saw my Facebook post, you'll see that it was actually completed. A lot of work. Making those pads is a lot of work. So port side basically done. I'm going to start working on the starboard side, which, as you can see, is quite a bit longer. I've made it about twice as long as the stock kit. I did order a new floor, as you can see. I also ordered 2 floors actually for the port side. So the one that I didn't use on the port side, I used it to extend this corridor, and then the few extensions at the end are actually just the stock floor. So I pretty much used everything, all leftover pieces. On the port side as well, I used a little bit to extend that corridor, just a tiny bit more. So here's some of the extensions that I made. The door that I made for the entryway. It's got to put everything together, but I want to start working on the pads for this side. So I used the old nav console or engineering station that came with the kit. If you look at the blueprints, there is actually one there in the corridor, so I figured it'd be a good place to put one. Even though you won't really be able to see it, if you snake an endoscope down the corridor, you will. So I am planning on putting lights in it as well. You might see in the back of that console I already drilled holes. It's really not a whole lot more work. I already have the light board, and the blinking lights on that nav station, engineering station, are going to be the same as the ones in the main hold. So it's not going to be a different board. It's just some more fibers, and that's it. And I figured if I could just use the thicker fibers as opposed to the quarter mil, I use like a half mil. It won't be so annoying because they won't get tangled, so it shouldn't be too bad. Here you can see I'm just making little hole fillers because the nav console, of course, is going to be the engineering station. So the rings are only going to go halfway across, which is perfect because I only have one ring left. So if I cut it in half, it actually works. Otherwise, I have to get another ring or make one. But this is fine. And again, you can barely see it down the hallway. It is there. In the end, I think it looks pretty good. Let me know what you think. Just trying to make a little hole for the ring mount. I think that's pretty close. All right, back to pads. So on the port side, if you watched the previous video, you'll see that I actually made each pad of 2 layers of styrene because my styrene sheet is quite thin. It works really well. It makes a very nice pad, but of course it takes twice as long. So for this side, since the back side of the pad basically is going to be hidden by the rings, I figure I'm just going to make a little standoff for each to save some time, because I have to make 2 full sets of outside pads, a small set of outside pads, a weird set of outside pads, and then I think 2 sets of inside pads. So it's quite a bit. So anything I can do to save some time, I decided to do. There's a lot of pads in the corridors. As you can see, I have one section right there. That's just half. That's halfway up. So it's 5 for halfway up. So 10 all the way around. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sections, I think, for just for the starboard side. I did order an aftermarket set of pads, which you can see right there, the one that's already painted beige, because I wanted to make sure I had the right dimensions, and that way I had something to go off of, because of course the parts that come with the kit are very limited, and there's definitely not enough to go all the way around. And plus I used a lot of them in the port side quarter already anyway. I think if I were making all the pads from scratch, I think I probably would do it as I did when I was younger making balsa models. I remember cutting out like a plywood template for the wing ribs, and then sandwiching the balsa between the two pieces of plywood, so that when you sand it down with plywood. The balsa, of course, sands away much faster than the plywood, so you end up with a nice template. I'd probably do something like that with these. Make a set of 5 or 6 templates. Yeah, it's just a lot of work. There's no way around it. And I think if I wanted to have enough pads, I think I'd probably need 3 sets altogether. Yeah, to make up for all the extra pieces that I've added. Of course, if you're my daughter, you'd say, oh, it's only $15, it's not bad. Yeah, $15 here, $15 there, $15 here, $15 there. Next thing you know, that's $60. Do that a couple times, 120, 180. Do it 10 times, you got $800. It goes fast. On the port side, when I was talking about how we make the pads, the second layer actually really helped them keep their shape, which was nice. But I've found that, especially this thin styrene sheet, if you bend it and careful that you don't break it, it actually keeps its shape quite well. And it's really not a huge curve anyway. Another option would be to use a thicker styrene sheet to begin with, but I'm not quite sure how well that would bend and if it would keep it shape. It probably would. All right, so there's the skinny one. That's for the inside curve. The ones at the top of the workbench, you can see those are the one that I bought, and then the 2 that I made for the wide section. There's a narrow one, which is going to be opposite the nav console or engineering station, and then that weird shaped one with only like 3 or 4 pads. That's going to go right at the end. It really is like a puzzle too. When I first got the set that I bought, there's no numbers, of course, or anything on them. So it took a little bit to get them all set in the right place, so they look like they belong and look like they were sitting in the right place. finally back to the lighting. I'm tired of doing pads. So the first thing we're going to work on is the two sconces for the entry ramp. So I'm doing the detailed entry ramp. I put them, there are 3 pads basically in there. One in the middle and then one on each side. I decided not to put a light right in the middle, because that way when you do look up, it would shine directly in your eyes. Now it's just an LED, it's a 5-volt LED, it's not that bright. However, I just decided to make it not so bright. So I did not put one in the middle. The same thing goes in the main corridor, the other piece over there on the left-hand side on the screen. I did not, or I will not, put a light opposite the door, so that both the upper and lower corridors match. I am wiring them separately. It might make sense just to run these wires down to the bottom ones and then just wire them together. But I specifically don't want to do that. There's the lights. I want to have the sconces wired separately and the underfloor lights wired separately. So that way, when I turn the Millennium Falcon on, I can turn on different sections. So I could turn on the underfloor light. I could turn on the blue glow in the pits. I could turn on the nav console and the cockpit, and then I could turn on the lights at the corridors or whatever order I want. So that's why I'm wiring them separately. So I didn't have. I did order a set of sconces to go with the pads that I had, but this piece right here is actually an extension for the cockpit corridor. So I was just going to use that to figure out the spacing for the lights for the sconces. So I need 3 or 4 on the port side, and then on the starboard side, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4 as well. Even though the starboard side is longer because it has those large cutouts, I don't need for 2 of them for there. That's kind of nice. I'm just making a little template. I want to make sure the spacing's right. And you'll see me go through some challenges here, trying to keep them together. Because there's 5 lights in that row, so I'm trying to make 5 lights together so that it's like one unit, so that it can easily be attached to the outside of the corridor. I tried to hold them down. I tried to keep them together. It didn't work. So I was like, okay, maybe if I just use a piece of plastic and then just hold them together like that, maybe that'll work. I'm not too worried about the plastic melting, because again, working with electronics, I try to solder as fast as possible so that the components don't get fried. Here's an idea: if I turn them around, they'll be like the LED boards that I did. I have the positive lead to the outside, then negative to the inside. Then by flipping it around, I have negative on the inside, and then positive on the outside of the next one, so that I can have 2 negatives together on the inside and the 2 positives on the outside, and then the next one will be the 2 positives on the inside and the negatives on the outside. So the tricky part is until they're soldered together, until they're one piece, keeping them together. Basically I'm doing 3 behind and 2 up front. I need to get it as close as possible together. That's what you saw me. I was trimming the edges to try to get them as close as possible together. Yes, even an old brain needs to be reminded how to wire things sometimes. So just a little reminder for myself. I first started using not the 22 gauge wire that I was using for the red black ones. This is actually some Cat 6 cable I had lying around. It was more flexible, so I figured maybe I'll just try that. It's really annoying. It's hard to strip. Of course, it's not really meant for soldering or being used in this capacity. You'll see later on. This is the only board or the only set of lights that I used it on. Oh, that's not good. Much better. Yeah, because I need like 8 or 9 of these sets of lights. Look at a template. Yeah, be a good idea. Little LEDs on the strips are square, so the template works really well for holding them in place. Here I'm trying to scrape some of the plastic coating off the back side. Because by flipping them around, like I showed you a minute ago, having the positives together and negatives together, if there's some solder on the back side, I can actually use it to attach the pieces together. They don't quite line up, so it's not ideal. Plus, if you scrape too hard, because the copper is so thin, you can go right through it. Of course, if you go right through it, then there's nothing to solder to and nothing to stick to. So. I already put solder on each of the contact points. As long as they're, somewhat overlapping and somewhat touching, I can just solder them together and they'll stay together. Figured I would try to be fancy, make nice, even curls. Whenever I strip wire that I'm going to solder to something, I like to only strip just barely enough to have the solder point. So sometimes the stripping tool doesn't actually work; it just kind of slips off the end. Yep. So this is the second time it happened, as you see. So I realized what happened, and when I was trimming the edges of these little LED pads, there's probably, I don't know, less than a 32nd of an inch, maybe a 64th of an inch of width of wire on one side. So when I was trimming them to make them thinner, I inadvertently trimmed off the side. So it basically killed the LED. You'll see it again too. I didn't actually realize it at this point yet. So you see, I figured it out because if you notice here, I'm actually touching the wire to the resistor and to one of the contacts, rather than, because if I touch both contacts, it doesn't work because I cut it too close. So only part I can trim off is the edge of the tape that's kind of overhanging the circuit. But anything more than that, it won't work. So rather than using a knife, I actually found the Dremel tool actually works really well. Just at a nice low setting, just barely scratch the plastic off, so I have a good clean copper surface to solder to. I know it'd be easier if I used longer wires, but I don't like it. I like them when they're short and they're the right length. Yeah, I'm just making sure that all the connections are connected. Because sometimes I'm using the back side of the pads to be soldered together. All right, so here's the port side. I did lose some video footage. I sincerely apologize. So you didn't get to see me install the lights in the sconces on this side, but don't worry, there's plenty left on the starboard side. So I just used some liquid tape to kind of glue them down, and also for light blocking. Seemed to work okay. So as you can see, I've done the outside sets of lights. Now we're just working on the inside ones. One thing too you'll notice is that since I received the sconces that go with the pads that I ordered, I noticed that the spacing is actually different from the piece that we used to make the template. So the template was for 5 lights. The spacing on these is 5 lights, but it's in the space of 4. So basically what I did was I took off one set, and then I used some milk carton plastic as a diffuser and used 4 lights to power the 5. And you'll see here in a sec. I think it turned out okay. I don't think you can really tell too much that there's only 4 lights powering those 5. I think it looks okay. This is more milk carton. So here I'm using it to make a diffuser for the lights that are going to go above the aft pipes. This is the light blocking shield. I'm going to leave the inside white so it reflects down, and then as you'll see later, I'll paint the top side black. Alright, so back to the pads again. Here's the starboard side. You can see that I received a set of sconce pads for the starboard corridor. Again, there's only 2 long ones and 2 short ones, I believe. Here I'm marking which of the pads are missing. If you look in the movie as well and in any of the books, you notice that there are some pads missing with exposed pipes in the corridors. So I'm going to make those. No, I'm not actually gluing the pads down, or at least not the bottom one is not glued because that's where one of those panels is going to go. I am gluing the second one in for, again, to keep space. Also, I want to be able to work on the top part of the corridor. So I need to know the spacing of pads. Now I can work on the top section because I have the pads in the right place. Of course, since the stock kit doesn't come with any sconces for the corridors, I can't install those until I get the holes built. So that's what I'm doing right now, marking off the location for the holes. I'm installing the rest of the pads too, even before drilling the holes for the sconces, because I want to make sure that again, I don't hit anything, and I want to make sure I get the the holes in the right location. The leftover stuff there on the workbench, I'm sorry you didn't get to see it. It's actually the missing pad pieces in the corridor. There are 3 of them. You can slightly see one right there with my index finger. So as you can see, I already drilled the holes in the stock section of corridor. Kind of reminds me of that old game Operation. Can't touch the side. This is where you can see as well. See, I have the inboard sconces, but not one opposite the door. That way, it's going to match the entryway. I apologize for bumping the camera. So as you can see, I have one set of sconce holes already cut out. This one's going to go for the next one, but I want to make sure I paint them first. I've been painting all the sconces themselves white. Because I already glued the other pieces in place, it's nice, the piece with the sconces just slips right in. It stays in place. But these is glued. Here's the back of the engineering station / nav console. I already drilled it for some for some fiber. As I mentioned earlier, because I already have the light boards. Just installing some extra pieces of fiber is simple. So even though you're not really able to see it, I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. I don't know if it's easier to work in the half section like the stock parts, or to work in short sections like mine. Even though the top of course doesn't come off because they aren't very long, each piece is only about 2 inches long, it's not hard to reach in from the side, except for this one. There you can see the 2 half corridor rings. I was thinking maybe I could just glue all these in, taped together. So this is all the additional lights for the starboard side. So on the starboard side, other than the sets of multiple sconces, on the inside there's 3. Then I have, here's a 5-piece one, which is 4 lights, of course. Underneath my hand, it's another 4-light one. Here's the singles. Then the piece that I added 3 to the next bank, and then 2 singles. This is the cut up milk part to provide some diffusion of the light. It also helps, I found, that when you're putting on, at least when I'm putting on the liquid tape, it prevents it from going in front of the LEDs and fouling up the sconces. On the port side, I just used the liquid tape to glue them down. On the starboard side, because I have so many to do, I just went ahead and used a little bit of glue to hold them down first, and then later on I'll cover them up and do all the light blocking with the liquid tape. I want to make sure I keep testing as well. I don't want to get to the end and have something not work after it's been moved down, and sealed, and taped over. So this is for the basically triple sconce that I made. This is down the corridor. It works. I'm trying not to force a whole lot between the pad, the LED pad, and the corridor, because then I don't want any of the tape to go between the light and into the sconce. Alright, so let's kind of like this. Let's unwrap some stuff. I didn't have any wires soldered to that one piece right there, so this is just like I'm just adding a little test strip. I'm using the breadboard to connect all the leads together. Because it's underfloor Sconces port, underfloor Sconces starboard. And we have light. Also realized how many spots I've actually missed. Starboard port. The pipes with my light coming down. And the port. I know the door at the end is not realistic, but I didn't want to put a mirror there. It's not attached as of right now, so it can still change. I haven't decided what to do yet. It's a view if you're coming out of the cockpit. You can kind of see the edge of the nav station and the back wall. The back wall is still a work in progress. Right now it's just a gray ring and just a black piece of plastic. I've decided yet what I'm going to do with it. I did make like a cargo type door, which I might use, but we'll see. But anyhow, that's as far as we got in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll join me again next time.